Welcome to the revision series. I am so happy you are here because the purpose of this series is to help you fall in love, to inspire you to fall in love with revision if you are not already in love with revision. And if you are in love with revision and you're using it, then in this video, I'm going to share with you another super powerful technique that had the most remarkable result in my reality, and I'm going to share that story as well. But I also want to address some of your concerns in relation to revision that some of you commented on the last video, which was the first video of the revision series. So if you haven't seen that, please go back and watch that first. It's the first video in this revision series, and it will give you an in-depth understanding of what revision is from a perspective that you may not have heard before. So that's what we're doing today. Thank you for being here. My name is Hedley. If you are new to this channel, welcome. You're in the right place. And if you are not new and you've been here before, thank you so much. I know that there's a lot that you could be doing with your time, so I greatly appreciate you choosing to be here, and I intend to make this time as valuable as possible for you. If you'd like to know more about me or my offerings, you'll find it in the box below this video or at my website, youaretheone.com.au. If you haven't already read my book, I Am Money, please do make sure you grab a copy of that. And if I could ask you for a simple favor, if you are enjoying my videos and you're finding them useful, please do press that subscribe button and leave a comment if you can. That would be much appreciated as well. Okay, let's get into it. So the first thing that I want to do is address your concerns when it comes to revision, because it is such an amazing, powerful, magical technique. And also thank you to those of you who actually shared your love of revision and shared your experiences with it as well. It just helps to build that narrative that revision is not a painful process. It can bring up some difficult emotions, but that's a good thing, because as long as we're keeping those emotions suppressed, that is what keeps that state of consciousness associated with those negative, painful, bad memories active in our consciousness. And remember, consciousness is the one and only reality, and reality is reflecting our consciousness back and the quality of it. So let me go through some of the concerns that you brought up. One of the comments was, I can't visualize. So what do I do if I can't visualize? That is fine. You don't have to visualize if that's not something that you find easy or you can do. If there's some kind of condition that doesn't allow you to do that, that is okay. What you would do instead is stay with the intention of the new potential, or the I am statement that you identified in the technique that I shared in the last video. Then you would go in and you would feel into what it feels like to act that out or for that statement to be true. You stay with yourself until you can actually feel yourself drop in to that state of, oh yeah, okay, that's what happened. Okay, the other one is, it's too painful to go back to those past memories. Okay. So with revision, you're not going back looking for past painful memories. This is not about going back and digging through your past. What you are doing is you are looking very clearly at your reality. And if your reality is unfavorable and things aren't working, or you are seeing a situation on repeat, meaning you're looking at something in your current reality now and going, wow, this is happening again? What the hell? That is because history is repeating, and history tends to repeat itself until the consciousness that caused history is changed, is shifted, is revised. So you are using your reality as a feedback system to ask yourself, where has this happened before? What is my memory about this? Because guaranteed, if this thing is in your reality and it's unfavorable, probably it's not the first time it's happened. You possibly got triggered, and it triggered an old state of consciousness that then got pushed out and reflected back. You're not going looking through the past, but if you have a reality that is unfavorable, where has this happened before? Now, a memory may pop up. That's the one you want to revise. And also with revision, you're not going back into the painful memory. You're going into the moment prior to the painful memory happening. And you are making a different decision prior to that previously painful event. So you're not actually playing out the painful memory. I want to forget the bad memories, but I don't want to lose the lessons. This has come up before, and it's such a great point. So thank you for mentioning it. You are not losing anything when you revise. Keep in mind, you're the infinite I am. You are always strong. You are always courageous. You are always amazing. You are always powerful. So let's say you had a memory where you experienced yourself as powerless, but then you overcame that event in reality and you realized your power. Here's the kicker. You were never powerless. You just were having the experience of being powerless, but you can't lose who you already are, which is infinitely powerful or infinitely courageous or infinitely brave or infinitely intelligent. You can't lose anything. That's who you already were prior to that memory happening. But we forget that. We come in with amnesia, and then these experiences happen that reflect back this feeling, this illusion of powerlessness or whatever the story might be. And then we overcome the challenges in reality to realize, oh my gosh, I'm so powerful. I'm courageous. I'm brave. I'm amazing. You already were. You have always been that. So you cannot lose anything that you already were prior to that event happening. So never fear that you are going to lose part of yourself by losing the memory of that painful event. You can only gain with revision. You are only gaining more awareness of who you already are, have always been, and always will be. Revision is an act of giving and receiving to self. That's why it's such a beautiful technique. You cannot lose. The only thing you lose with revision is the memory of the painful event. That's it. And all of the feelings that go along with that. Okay? So, any other concerns or questions that you have about revision, please do pop them in the comments and I will aim to answer them in the next video that I do in this revision series. As I said, my whole goal with this is to have you falling in love with revision and using it regularly if you're not already. Okay, let's get into the story that I want to share with you and the technique that I used. I'm going to give you a little context to this story just to set this story up. Earlier in the year, I was dealing with a very difficult situation that I hadn't really addressed at any time in my life, and that was some of the issues that I had around my relationship with my mum. And as I was dealing with that situation, I was coming into the realization that I had been chasing love in a lot of my relationships, friendship. And that's such an icky feeling. It's such an unpleasant one. And it's just like, ew, really? Did I do that? Oh, I wish I hadn't have. And from doing that work on my relationship with my mom, I had some memories come up in relation to a friend of mine that I grew up with, who he was kind of like the golden boy. Everybody loved him. He came from a super successful, third dimensionally successful family. He was very, attractive and good looking and, talented. And he was kind of like the whole package. We met when I was about 17. We were in the same friendship group and I just had him on a pedestal. Everyone did, that kind of guy that all the guys want to be and all the girls want to be with. So we met when I was 17 and he always had a girlfriend and I generally didn't. I was the single one. But I was always kind of throwing myself in front of him and trying to get his attention and just acting in a way that I look back on and I go, ew, so wish I wasn't like that. And then when he was single, we got into this thing where we would hook up on the times where he wasn't in a relationship. It was always just as friends, but we'd hook up. This continued into my 30s. And in my 30s, I had enough of it and I kind of called it out and I I totally acted in a way that was very immature and I did something that I wish I hadn't have done. It wasn't super bad. It wasn't great. It was a very immature move. So all of these memories were just dialing up and they were just coming to the surface and I was like, I have to revise these memories. They were kind of bringing up that icky feeling as I was remembering them and it's not something that I consciously went looking for. These memories were just bubbling up to the surface and I was just like, ugh. So I used this technique that I'm going to share with you in a moment and I applied this technique to each of these memories. It didn't take very long. All I would do is I'd sit down, I'd close my eyes, I'd go into the memory and I would activate this technique and that was it. That's literally all I did because I have not spoken to this person in 10 years because of the fallout that we had after my stunt that I pulled, which I did apologize for at the time, I might say. Despite my apology, he was not interested in that. So we had not spoken for 10 years. We're not even friends on Facebook or Instagram, like nothing, no contact for 10 years. So I revised these memories of my time with my friend and a week after I did these revisions. My phone starts blowing up and I recognize the number. I can't quite place it, but I kind of feel like it's a number I know, and I don't answer. And I think, if they want to speak to me, they'll leave a message. So eventually they left a message and it was him. First time I've heard from him in 10 years. I called him back and we had a wonderful chat, caught up for like 4 hours just on, a lot to catch up on over 10 years. And he wanted to see me. He wants to catch up. And I was like, you know what, I'm busy. I've got stuff going on. I was down in Sydney at the time and I was coming back home. And he ended up flying up here to meet me and catch up with me. What was interesting about the reconnection that we had was the tables were turned. He was pursuing me in a way he never had before. It's like our relationship had shifted and all the tables are turned. I think I was a little bit open in terms of our connection because we always had a really nice connection and, it's a long relationship. We've known each other over 30 years. So I was sort of open to seeing how things would go, but I was very much in my I am, and that's how I am these days. Yes, everyone is me pushed out, reflecting me back. So I'm watching him as my reflection. And what was interesting about the reflection is even though his behavior had changed and he was moving towards me, my interest in him was just not there. But a couple of things happened. I had revised the incident where I behaved very immaturely. I know you're like, what did you do? It's not bad, but there's no need for me to repeat it. But I revised it, and I revised it using this technique so that it never happened. When we were in the car, as I picked him up from the airport, I actually brought that up. I brought the incident up and he could not remember. Now, that should have been my cue to leave it alone and move on, because when you revise, you're essentially shifting out of that timeline so that it never happened. But I was like, what? You can't remember that? Are you kidding? You don't remember anything? He couldn't remember. I went and jogged his memory. I was like, really? You don't remember when I did this? And I really had to jog his memory. I shouldn't have done it. And I would encourage you to not do this, but I did. And of course, eventually he remembered the incident and we laughed about it. It was no big deal, but it definitely felt like we sort of shifted back onto that old timeline after I jogged his memory. I would recommend not doing that. When you do revision, leave the past alone. You are right now on a new timeline. You do not need to be checking in whether they remember or not. Chances are they don't. If they do, then we need to do a little bit more revision. So that was pretty amazing because that was the reason why we hadn't spoken in 10 years and he had no recollection of it. The other amazing thing that happened is throughout the course of our relationship, I had spent so much time sort of chasing and, wanting his attention. That just was not the dynamic. And what the dynamic reflected back was the revised version. That was an amazing experience for me to have that opportunity to choose myself. And I think that's probably the key is in the revision. This is a revision technique that will have you choosing yourself in moments where you may have chosen somebody else. And a week after doing this technique, he is in my house and I am acting it out and saying no. And I'm choosing myself, not in a mean or unkind way, not at all, but in a way that was very much, I'm wanting what I've created for myself. So it was a really powerful experience and it was amazing because of how it unfolded just days after doing this revision. And I wanted to share that story because it's such powerful evidence that this technique works, but it'll work in a way that is right for you in your reality. So you do not have to be afraid of it. If you do not want this person showing up, they will not show up. This is just so you can find peace and liberation and in particular, choose yourself. So let me share the technique. So the choose yourself revision technique. And as the title suggests, this is a technique for choosing yourself in those times when you didn't, when you chose somebody else instead. So this is for memories when you looked for love or anything outside of yourself, generally with another person. This is for when you put somebody else on a pedestal. Perhaps that person is still on a pedestal. This is for when you may have done or said something that left you feeling embarrassed or humiliated or ashamed or just wishing you had done something different instead. This is for when you wished you were somewhere else other than where you were in the memory, when you did something that you regretted, or you were in any situation that you didn't want to be in and that you wanted to escape. It can be used for trauma memories as well, but I do have my thoughts on trauma. Generally, I would recommend working with a professional if you are working with trauma memories. So the instructions are very simple, and this doesn't have to take a long time. In fact, it just took me a few minutes to revise a bunch of memories with my friend. So all you have to do is close your eyes and bring your attention within, and then call to mind the memory you wish to revise. Perhaps that memory has already arisen to the surface, so that is definitely a memory you want to revise. The key here is your point of view. So you want to observe the memory from your current point of view. So your eyes are closed and you are in the current version of yourself, the one who is the infinite commander of your reality. And you are observing the memory of that younger version of yourself in the situation. Then what you want to do is step in between yourself, the younger version of yourself, and the other person. You want to step in between that. And if it's not another person, you're stepping in between yourself and the thing, whatever it is, whether it's an object or a situation or another person. You want to step in the middle of it, in between it. So now you are standing in between your past self and the other person or thing or situation. Now, there's two things you can do here. One, if you have something to say to the other person, turn towards the person and you say whatever it is that you need to say to them. This is not a discussion, however. Just say what it is that you need to say. If you need to hear something from them, like an apology or something like that, wait until you hear that from them. But I would suggest avoiding getting into any discussion. Just say what you need to say, hear what it is that you need to hear, and then turn towards yourself. Now, you can also just turn straight towards yourself. You don't have to acknowledge them in any way. That's the way I did it with my friend. I just stood in between myself and my friend, and I turned straight towards myself, my younger version. And then what I did was I acknowledged what it was that that younger version of me was wanting. And I acknowledged it and I said, what you're looking for is not out there. It's not in them. It's here with me, and I'm here now, and I'm sorry that I haven't been, but I'm here now, and I love you, and it's time to go. And then what you want to do is take yourself by the hand and walk yourself out of that memory. Walk yourself out of that situation. And you can take it a step further by envisioning taking yourself to a place that you really love to go, or into another situation that makes you happy. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is take yourself by the hand and walk yourself out of the memory. This is all done with love. This is all done with kindness. You are not berating yourself. You are not giving yourself a lecture. You are not talking down to yourself. You're not being mean to yourself. You're not doing any of that. You are coming in as the infinite I am, the infinite state of love and peace and kindness, and you are turning to self and being like, hey, I'm here. We don't need to be doing this. There are other options. Come with me. And you take yourself by the hand and you walk yourself out of that memory. And that is essentially all you do. It does not take a long time. This technique is so powerful, and your reality will reorganize itself to reflect that choice you just made in that new memory back to you. So that choice that you've just made is you've chosen self. You've looked towards yourself. You've chosen yourself, and your reality must reflect that back in some way. We don't know how. We don't need to. It's not our job. Our job is just to work within consciousness. That's it. And I cannot tell you the relief I felt having walked myself out of those memories. It felt so good. It felt so free. It felt so liberating. It didn't take too long. This does not have to take a lot of time. But because it was feeling so good, I was like, oh, what other memory can I do? And of course I was like, oh my gosh, there's another one. There's another one. There's another one. There I am, chasing love outside of myself. And I just went into each one of them and I just took myself very lovingly by the hand and marched myself out of there. And a week later, in my reality, that person started blowing up my phone and was, pursuing me in a way they never have. But by that stage, I was like, no, thank you. Thank you, but no, thank you. Wild. So this technique, it works. They don't have to show up in your reality if you don't want them to. Just trust that your reality will reflect back the confirmation of this technique in whatever way is right and appropriate for you. It's your consciousness. It's your reality. Your reality is a reflection of your consciousness. So trust that your reality is going to reflect it back in the absolute most perfect way for you. But the point of this technique is you are going to feel so much lighter. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel happier because you chose yourself. And that is why this is such a powerful technique, because we have spent lifetimes looking out there, trying to get him, her, they, them, it to choose us. We have been looking to reality for what we have never truly done for ourselves, which is step in front of ourselves and be like, hey, I'm here. I choose you. Choose yourself in all of those times where you forgot, where you didn't know. And of course, there's no blame, there's no fault, there's nothing you did wrong. This is part of the setup. We all come in with the amnesia, but now you know who you are. Now is the time to go back and choose yourself in all of those moments where you didn't. And that is going to have a lasting impact on your reality now. You will see that choice reflected back now in many, many beautiful ways. It's wild. It's wild. Have fun with that one this week. And I will be back next week with yet another video on revision as part of the revision series. Again, my goal is to have you falling in love with revision if you are not already. So I look forward to seeing you then. Have a great week. Bye.